sixième édition de promotion canapé, édition consacrée à Jack Ketchum qui nous fait l'honneur d'être notre invité à l'occasion du Salon du Livre 2009. Je suis accompagné de Charlotte qui pourra éventuellement me sauver si mon anglais me fait défaut à un moment. Et donc nous allons tout de suite passer à notre invité. Hello Jack.
Hello.
You are one of Brajlan's guests of honor for the 2009 Paris Book Fair.
Yes.
And you accepted to answer some of our questions, which we'd like to thank you.
My pleasure.
To introduce you very briefly to the few people who don't know all you already, let's simply say that you have written about around 15 hour novels. However, they are not like any other novels of the genre, as you specialize in novels based on true facts. Brajlan published 3 of those novels: The Girl Next Door, Of Season, and Only Child. Only Child is the last one. My first question is simple. Can you introduce this book with a few words, please?
Only Child is a book that I wrote based on a very short segment on HBO called Women Who Kill. And it was a 15-minute segment of an hour-long show. It was about a woman who was in jail for life because she had essentially tried to defend her son from an abusive husband. When the courts failed her, when the system failed her, when the law failed her, she took matters into her own hands. And her story touched me and outraged me, and I thought, I often proceed from a point of view of anger. This certainly pissed me off, so I decided to do a book about it. I didn't research it, I simply took that 15-minute period of time and watched it a few times and tried to get her character down and what the situation was. And so the novel proceeds from there.
About that, supernatural instances occur rather often in horror novels. Why did you choose to concentrate on actual facts and therefore mirror of more day-to-day kind of horror?
Because you scare me more than ghosts. We do, but what we do as humans to one another, to me, is I think the scariest thing on earth. A lot of other people write supernatural because that moves them. It certainly moves me when I'm reading it sometimes, if it's really well done. But I have very few stories that involve the supernatural. Most of mine involve real situations, real people. It's simpler for me to write that because I don't have to imagine as much. All I have to do is observe myself, and try to be true to those characters rather than ones who are possessed by demons.
How do you choose the new items that inspire you for your books?
Over a conversation overheard in a bar, something on the news. I get ideas from everywhere, I have a bulletin board, and I put ideas up on the bulletin board, and then I'll sort of look at it one day and go, that goes well with that one, and that goes well with that one. I think I have a story here.
Mm-hmm.
So it's sort of like that.
Do you have a specific research technique once you've decided to write about a specific new items? What is, in the end, the ratio of fact and fiction?
That depends on the story. I did a book called Cover, which was its main character is a Vietnam veteran. I researched that for a year before I even sat down to write it because I hadn't gone to Vietnam, and I didn't want to shortchange the vets, the people who did. So that was a lot of research, and it was a matter of talking to veterans themselves, a matter of reading, watching movies and shows. And finally, when I got it right, I thought I started to actually write it. Other books, like The Girl Next Door, I didn't research basically at all. My mother had just recently died when I started writing it, and I went back home to settle her affairs, and that's where I grew up. And that time when I was growing up, it was a dead-end street. It was a perfect place to put that story, that grim story. And but all I had to do was remember what it was like growing up at that period of time, and look around me at the house that I was partying with and the land that I was partying with, take it from there. So it varies from story to story a lot.
Do you read a lot yourself, and if yes, what sorts of books do you like to read?
I read for at least an hour every morning before I start doing anything or even talking to anyone, and something like this when I travel. I love traveling because I can read for 7 hours on a plane. It's terrific. I read everything. I'm all over the place, and I think a lot of writers are. I read nonfiction, I read suspense fiction, I read classics. I think it's important to not stay in one genre and read in one genre because there's so many people doing so many really interesting things. There's some nonfiction writers who are easily as good as the fiction writers. So it's pretty good to have a very varied diet on that.
And what have you read during the journey? During the plane?
Oh, actually, I'm reading a book called Stephen King at the Movies, which is a bunch of reflections by Stephen on the films that were made of his short stories and the short stories themselves. I'm a little disappointed, Stephen, because you didn't get many essays in there. You know, I mean, I was looking for full-length essays. This is your publisher. Your publisher is cheating a little bit. But the stories themselves are wonderful, so.
Stephen King has oftentimes praised your work. Are you Stephen King fans
Yes,
yourself?
oh yeah. I've been reading him since his first novel, and yes, I think he's fascinating to watch. He's got a brilliant mind, and he's all over the place. When we first met, we were signing together. He had done the introduction to The Girl Next Door in hardcover, and so we're sitting in his office in Bangor, talking and signing these 100,000 or whatever the fuck they were copies, all these copies of stuff. And Stephen's looking around, that's a good idea for a story. We're just bullshitting. Mm-hmm. And he must have gotten 10 or 12 ideas while I got one, I think. But that's the way his mind works. He's always into the story. And you're correct, he's been a great booster of mine. He's made it his business to make sure that the media notices me. Mm-hmm. So that he's mentioned me twice in Entertainment Weekly, mentioned me at the National Book Awards. He's great. Nice guy, too.
Okay. Last question. Can you tell us about your next project?
A little bit. I'm writing a screenplay, and as the gods of screenplays go, it's pretty hush-hush at this point. I'm not supposed to talk about it very much. But I will say that it's linked up to one of my books and a previous movie. How's that for a hint?
Okay.
Not bad? Okay.
Thank you for the scoop.
My pleasure.
And thank you for sitting on our couch.
It's a nice couch.
Thank you. French author sings too. And for finish, I will wish you a good book fair.
Thank you.
And maybe see you next time during another trip.
Sounds
Paris.
good. Sounds good.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.